So, happy World Environment Day. Today is World Environment Day, and I couldn't think of a better bunch to celebrate with than you guys. So, my name is Christine. I'm a circular economy advisor for TOMRA. And today I am going to tell you two lies, or as some people call them, fake news. And I will explain why these aren't true and share some pretty scary facts that I learned last summer when I sailed through the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. And before I started working for TOMRA, the ocean already was quite important to me, as it is to so many people globally around the world. The ocean taught me where food comes from when I went fishing with my granddad. The ocean feeds 3 billion people with protein every single day around the world. The ocean also taught me how incredibly simple happiness can be, which is hard to put a dollar sign behind. And it also taught me the art of the power nap. I don't know if you guys went to see, like 20 years ago, I remember these like old orange life vests that were so massive they would hold you up no matter if you fell asleep. They don't make them like that anymore, so if you fall asleep now, you fall overboard. But inevitably, for a lot of people who care about the ocean, have a relationship to the ocean around the world, now it has also developed to relationship to plastic, or more specifically, to marine litter. So last summer, I took some time off from work, and I went sailing with X-Expedition to their North Pacific voyage. Now, X-Expedition is a series of all-women scientific voyages around the world to do research on marine pollution, both plastic and chemical. There were hundreds of applicants. I was the only one from TOMRA, although you see our logo on the boat. We were 14 women in total in the end. To some people, that sounds like an absolute nightmare to be on a boat for weeks on end with 13 other women. But for some reason, it explains it all, and it pacifies anyone's doubts that we didn't fight all the time when I say we had lots of chocolate on board. And you see the TOMRA logo on the boat there. We were title sponsor for the voyage. And the reason we came on board, pun intended, comes back, for me at least, to when I was in school. Because when I would sit down for tests, my teacher would always tell me, before you even start writing a single word, the first thing you have to do is read the question at least 3 times. Before you even start trying to provide a solution, you have to understand what the problem is. And the reason we sailed is this. As you can see, this is from a National Wildlife Reserve. This is a beach in Hawaii that we cleaned before we left. No tourists go here. You cannot enter without a permit. And it is by far the most polluted beach I have ever been to. And I used to work in Indonesia cleaning beaches. And this can be described, a friend of mine puts it very nicely, that you have, to him, you have the planet and you have the world, which are 2 different things. You have the planet, which is everything natural, biological, basically anything that was here even before humans. And then you have the world, which we have created on top. The world essentially comes from the human mind. Someone at some point thought up the ideas, the systems, and everything we surround ourselves with. And this is what our world currently looks like, that we have created. And the reason this beach is so polluted is because it sits on the very edge of the North Pacific Gyre with the Hawaiian Islands. Now, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the term, but a gyre refers to these massive areas out in our oceans where weather systems and ocean currents sort of converge and circulate. So what researchers have discovered is that in these gyres, obviously anything that floats is going to accumulate at a quicker pace than it disperses. And the biggest one of this is the North Pacific Gyre, aka the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. So that's where we went. It took us 3 weeks. We were 14 women in total. We covered 3,000 nautical miles, which is the equivalent of around 5,000 kilometers, across the world's deepest ocean. On average, the North Pacific is 4 kilometers deep. The deepest point, which I think is about a month ago now, researchers found pieces of a plastic bag is 11 kilometers deep. And we sailed from Oahu through the densest, biggest ocean plastic accumulation zone on the planet, through to Vancouver in Canada. And now, in Norwegian, the Pacific Ocean is literally called the Quiet Ocean. And in English, and maybe even French, it sounds, something like passive, pacifist, docile. That is the first lie, ladies and gentlemen. It's not. We had, this is coming up on Canada, it's about 5 a.m. in the morning. You can see the main seal is reefed almost all the way down. We had 4 or 5 meter high waves and 40 knots of wind on the nose. And I hadn't sailed before. So for me, this was a steep learning curve. I think standing at the helm that morning, I have never been that happy and that scared at the same time. But it was a wonderful experience. Obviously, sailing in a place like that is one thing, if you do it just for fun. But we were there to do research. This looks like some kind of sea monster, but it's not. This is Rowan, our lead scientist, being held and guided by crewmate Siri to the back of the boat with her ocean plastic sample to make sure that it's not contaminated and that it's safely carried to the back of the boat. Because doing science on a sailboat, although it's fun, can kind of be summarized with lots of people on deck who haven't slept, maybe you haven't eaten yet, and sailboats are literally designed to roll from side to side. We had some very interesting science program partners with us that we collected data for. Five Gyres Institute, as you'll notice up there, were instrumental in uncovering these 5 plastic ocean gyres to begin with. We worked with collected data for Vancouver Aquarium, which has a program world-leading on microfiber plastic pollution. Clean Seas, the UN initiative on marine litter, has supported their journey. And we also deployed NASA tracker technology to map how these big pieces of plastic actually behave when they're out in the middle of the ocean. So we had a lot of work to do while we were out there. And another piece of science that we were involved with, this is back in the beach in Hawaii. This is a French researcher working with Hawaii Pacific University. Whenever she does beach cleans, she brings a spectrometer with her, because she wants to understand who are the culprits and what kind of material actually washes up from the beaches in Hawaii. Because this isn't litter that came from the beaches in Hawaii. This is washing up there from the ocean. Maybe you guys saw this article as well. This is part of her research that was happy accident, if you want to call it that, where she actually discovered in her lab that PET bottles, when exposed to photodegradation from UV light, emit methane gases, which is a 4 times as powerful greenhouse gas as CO2. Which, for me, is all the more the reason why plastic does not belong in nature. And then there are some things you don't need a spectrometer to understand where it comes from. And when I say, when we talk about marine litter, we talk about these plastic gyres, and we talk about the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, this is an image that often comes to mind. And this is actually, it's not from the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, this is from here in Bulgaria. And I have to tell you, if the Great Pacific Garbage Patch looked like that, I would be really happy. If it looked like that, we could clean it up. You can just go up there and scoop it up and put it in a boat and take it to shore. And we see this a lot in media and social media as well. And this is the second lie I told you. Because after sailing for a week and a half, we were in the middle of the world's densest ocean plastic accumulation zone, and it looks like this. And the reason it looks like that is because in the same day, we pulled up a sample of 1,000 pieces of microplastic. And I dare you to try to figure out what here is organic material and what is actually microplastics. If you're a fish trying to have lunch, avoiding eating plastic. Or if you're a human being, if that was a sample of air in this room and you're trying to avoid breathing plastic, how do you do that? So when people talk about cleaning up the oceans, yes, we can clean up the bigger pieces, but one thing that I realized the hard way out there is that we're never going to have fully clean oceans again, because this is impossible to clean up. This is another typical sample that we pulled up. You can see it's a mix of plastic debris, wildlife, some of it you really don't want to touch. And we sorted it into 3 different sizes and according to the types of plastic, whether it was rope, or film, or fragments. And we also made a little mini documentary from the trip as well. Do you guys want to see it? Some of you do, that's good enough.
Expedition is a series of all-women sailing voyages to different parts of the world to really study plastic pollution, the toxic impacts on our ocean, and to bring together an amazing group of women to think about how we can tackle these problems. This expedition is Expedition North Pacific. We'll be sailing from Hawaii to the North Pacific Gyre, this accumulation zone between Hawaii and Vancouver, where so much plastic ends up. What we know so far about the Great Pacific Garbage Patch is there is this accumulation zone between 20 and 40 degrees north of the equator, and in the middle of that patch, it is the most dense.
I've never been out there before, so from what I've heard, it's vast.
There are quotes twice the size of Texas, twice the size of France.
The previous notion was that it was all microplastics and you couldn't see it. Someone's talked about an island of trash. That's not true either.
Some of the crew might be quite surprised when we get there and we realise that actually it's this very fine soup. And you often look at the water and it appears to be clean. We take the trawl through and we pull up 1,000 pieces of plastic.
I think it's hard for people to believe who haven't necessarily studied plastic pollution actually what's out there.
There's over 5 trillion fragments of plastic floating on the surface of our ocean. And there's many times that have sunk to the depths, so deep that we can't even measure.
We've got a really wide-ranging science program, so we're looking at plastics in the water on the surface. We're also looking at toxins in the water and then microplastic contamination in the air.
We have over 10 different scientific experiments going on board.
I'm going to help out the science team to do the actual sampling because that's something I really want to learn more about. But I'm also part of the expert team, coming from Tomra and knowing what I know about how we can recycle beverage containers and keep them out of the ocean and how we can have those land-based solutions to make sure that we sort of close the tap of litter on land while we also work out at sea.
When it comes to solutions, I really think there's no silver bullet.
There's not one solution to this problem. It has to be many different solutions all along the value chain.
The good news is that there's many things that we can be doing to tackle ocean plastic. And for me, it's all about trying to get as close to the source of the problem as we can. We know that there's so many tiny fragments of plastic in our ocean and on our coastlines. Trying to pick them up is near impossible. So trying to turn off the tap, work at the source and stop that plastic getting into the ocean in the first place is really where we need to focus our energy. We need governments working on legislation. We need industry designing new products. And we need new systems like Tomra working on deposit return schemes. And we also need individual action. We need all of us as consumers to think about our plastic consumption, shift our behaviour, and really work together to solve the problem.
I know, right? Go girls, I heard you. And I saw the keep cup as well earlier. Well done, well done. So one of the things that worry me about ocean pollution and plastic pollution is, as has been said earlier today as well, climate change is going to be a lot more uncomfortable for us a lot sooner than marine litter. But what worries me isn't necessarily that the fish, this guy, he's going to starve to death if we hadn't caught him. But we don't eat the stomach of the fish. So we don't physically eat those pieces of plastic, right? There's research into the nanotransfer of plastics, but I won't go into that one. But what does worries me is these chemicals that, when a plastic becomes this small, it's been out there for years, maybe even decades. And that plastic, we use different chemicals then. There's also different chemicals out in the ocean that persist in the environment that this plastic attracts. And these chemicals, they bioaccumulate up the food chain. That means they increase in concentration. So when the small fish is eaten by the bigger fish, obviously the plastic goes with the stomach of the fish there. We don't eat it, or at least I don't. But these chemicals, who act as hormones, bioaccumulate and end up on top. So this cocktail of chemical contaminants, that's what's worrisome. And these chemicals that we've heavily regulated or banned, we know they are detrimental to human health, to wildlife, and to the environment. And this is also the reason why Expedition, I have a lot of colleagues in Uskit who are like male colleagues who said, I can wear a dress if I can come on the boat. But that's the reason why it's all women as well, is because research is showing that these chemicals impact women more than men as well. And there's some research indicating that once you have a certain concentration in your body, as a woman, the only way you can get rid of that is to have a child. Because you need to pass it on to your children, because you pass it on in fatty tissue. That's the only way to decrease the concentration. There's no sort of clinical way to do it. And researchers are saying now that these chemicals that we have tried to regulate, that persist in the environment, now have a new pathway to the human bodies through the food we eat. And there is no such thing as a way. We've talked a lot about waste management and waste today, and I've seen what a way looks like, or at least what it used to look like. There's no such thing, because it's still out there. All the plastic we have ever produced is out there somewhere. And it's way too valuable to be out in the middle of the ocean. And we've talked a lot about circular economy today as well, which is language that's being fed back to us by the ecosystem that we live in, by people around us who are not incredibly nerdy about recycling and plastic like we are. But we need to implement it, because if we don't act on it, there's just another buzzword, or two buzzwords actually, but yeah. And one of the things, deposit scheme is a perfect example, because it literally teaches people the value of waste. And waste is a resource. That's, when we talk about circular economy, there's so many ways to explain it because it has so many applications. But one way that I like to talk about it is in the analogy of a tree, right? So you have a tree, it uses nutrients from the soil, it uses CO2 and sunlight to produce leaves. In the fall, these leaves, they fall to the ground, and they decompose, and they become nutrients again for that tree or the tree next to it. We emulate nature because everything is a resource. And that's the direction that we really need to go to, and that we can't just talk about anymore, because it's kind of heartbreaking to be out there and see that, our children and my children, they're never going to be on a plastic-free beach or have plastic-free oceans again. And I want to add another thing to the circular economy concept as well that we talk about a lot. It's also about empathy for your value chain. So whatever industry you're in, whatever you produce, whatever you sell, whatever you do on a daily basis, you need to have empathy for the people around you in the value chain. From cradle to cradle. Your products or your services, they're going to touch people's lives all along the value chain. And that's what circular economy is about. Thinking throughout the entire value chain what your actual business is about. And there were, it's been an industrial scale that we have gotten to this problem today, but it's also been a million micro actions. So one thing is what you do when you have your suit on and you're in your office, but think of the sum of your life. If you're going to live to be 120 years old, what is the sum of your life in the end? It's also the actions that you do as a person when you come home and what you do with your families. And it is a tall order to change this, but it's been really inspiring to listen to you guys throughout the day today. And I just want to put this to you, that if I can, without ever having sailed before, across the world's deepest ocean, in conditions that can only be described as consistently worse than expected, and make it out on the other end, you can make those changes too.